Professor Deculin's unexpected arrival created a ripple of curiosity among the observers. Tall and resolute, Deculin confronted the two manipulative professors who were attempting to bully the commoner students. His expression was frigid, his eyes openly showing irritation. His sharp voice sliced through the charged silence as he directly challenged Professor Retlin, stating that Deculin himself had authorized the club's formation and questioning if Retlin had any objection. Deculin noted that he had heard his name being shouted down the corridor, and demanded Retlin state his business clearly or question if Deculin now required Retlin's approval for his actions, adding a sarcastic query about whether a request form was needed each time. The atmosphere in the hallway grew heavy and suffocating, as nearby students exchanged worried glances and the tension escalated. A profound weariness settled upon Deculin as he mentally reviewed the day's annoyances: Jeriel's earlier pestering, these professors causing discord, and now Retlin insulting him publicly. Although his temper flared, strict control kept his face a mask of calm authority, refusing to let emotion compromise his judgment. Retlin's face turned deathly pale, sweat beading on his brow as he sputtered Deculin's name, desperately searching for an excuse. Gesturing weakly towards the clubroom, Retlin claimed mere concern over its dilapidated state, suggesting that mages from royal towers deserved superior facilities and offering to personally oversee renovations. Deculin inwardly scoffed at the flimsy excuse, recognizing the conniving old man's adeptness, which was reminiscent of marketplace swindlers. Since the justifications held no real impact, Deculin didn't pursue the matter further, responding smoothly yet laced with mockery, acknowledging Retlin's thoughtfulness and the room's outdated state, and promising to bear it in mind. Deculin's tone dropped, filled with undisguised contempt, as he stated that trash invariably behaved predictably, questioning what else the worthless could accomplish but destruction. Without awaiting a reply, Deculin turned sharply and walked away with measured steps, leaving the two pale figures stunned and humiliated. Beck's face flushed crimson with suppressed rage, grinding his teeth audibly. He remained powerless against Deculin directly. Transitioning to the classroom, Professor Deculin prepared the lesson amidst humming activity and low murmurs. Students noted his recent absence and speculated about the train attack incident featured in Wizards magazine, marveling at the unbelievable feat of suspending an entire train mid-air. Sylvia remained seated quietly, her attention fixed solely on Deculin, and she leaned to ask her neighbor softly if he might mention recent events. Deculin tapped the lectern lightly, commanding silence, his steady voice demanding focus as he announced that class was beginning. Today's subject would be pure elements and magical interference, specifically, one wizard intercepting and supplanting another's spell. Before delving deeper, he proposed a brief warm-up exercise. Alan deliberately carried a crate of magical stones forward. Deculin snapped his fingers, instantly executing a spell. The stones were enveloped in a magnetic field and floated weightlessly, emitting a radiant light like miniature stars, illuminating the classroom and eliciting gasps of awe from the students. The stones drifted towards the students. Sylvia and Epherene caught theirs. Deculin explained each stone's value, 3,000 eln, stating that he would maintain the levitation while their task was to seize them by interfering with his mental magic. Successful capture meant they could keep the stone. Before he even finished speaking, Epherene slammed her hand on the desk, springing up, her eyes gleaming with intense excitement, and shouting, "Yes, Professor!" For a noble of modest means, despite her S-tier potential, 3,000 eln was significant. Her red-haired friend quickly clamped a hand over Epherene's mouth, whispering urgently not to shout while the professor was speaking. Though slightly irked, Deculin maintained his composure and continued, emphasizing that preventing interference was as crucial as casting potent spells. Disrupted magic meant an effective loss. He noted that strong defensive magic users typically had an advantage, but today's exercise was specifically aimed at observing their capabilities in this area. Students eagerly embraced the challenge, focusing their mental energy to disrupt Deculin's hold. Hong, swift and nimble, was the first to contact her stone. A hush fell over the classroom, all eyes locked on the students' attempts. Deculin silently reflected. Halting the train had only been possible due to his recently acquired basic mental magic, and he acknowledged the need for further mastery. Curiosity stirred within him. How long could his magic hold against 150 aspiring wizards? How did his abilities compare to this new generation? Both Sylvia and Epherene channeled their full effort, but the challenge proved exceedingly difficult. Epherene, her characteristic bright smile fixed on her face, thought excitedly about the outrageously expensive tools, her depleted funding, and Professor Deculin generously distributing free stones, thanking him internally and resolving to take one. Beside her, Sylvia observed quietly, recalling Deculin asserting that Epherene overcame obstacles through sheer strength. This ignited a competitive spirit in Sylvia. She resolved absolutely not to lose, especially not to Epherene, the rivalry palpable. Other students struggled, some suffered nosebleeds, others trembled uncontrollably. Alan, watching from below, couldn't suppress his admiration, calling out how incredible the professor was, showing no vulnerability against 150 opponents, the students seemingly unable to breach his defense. Alan's praise even slightly surprised Deculin. He hadn't anticipated first years exerting themselves to the point of physical distress yet still falling short. Suddenly, a stone vibrated intensely, successful interference. Deculin directed his focus. As anticipated, Sylvia had succeeded first, panting heavily, sweat glistening, the task clearly demanding significant effort. Securing the stone, Sylvia glanced at Epherene, who was still struggling, and sighed quietly, thinking herself the only success so far. Deculin approached, encouraging Sylvia's accomplishment. Startled momentarily, Sylvia simply nodded. Deculin had predicted her easy success but not the required exertion. Scanning the classroom, he asked aloud if there was no one else. The remaining students strained, but no imminent success was visible. If no one else was capable, then... Before completing the thought, Deculin detected another interference. A faint smile touched his lips. Someone else had succeeded. Sylvia's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. Indeed, Epherene's talent proved formidable. Flashing a triumphant smile, though looking ready to collapse, she exclaimed victory, 3,000 elnhers. Sylvia's features tightened, her brow furrowing slightly. Their competition was clearly destined to escalate. Students continued pouring energy into the task, straining mentally against Deculin's defense. Exhausted, sweat-drenched, some bleeding, none reached their prize, the air thick with exertion and tension. Sensing that students were pushing too far, Deculin quickly signaled for cessation, unwilling to worsen the situation. Instantly, one student retched from dizziness, others slumped, drained, some losing consciousness. Deculin sighed heavily, his voice frustrated, calling their state pathetic, and declaring a brief recess, reminding them to clean their messes. Students staggered unsteadily. Julia, pale, turned weakly to Epherene, asking how she had managed, admitting she felt near death yet couldn't succeed. Epherene, her head against the desk, panted tiredly but pridefully, replying that she had nearly passed out, couldn't feel her tongue, but had grasped something. Julia's eyes widened, asking what? Epherene nodded faintly, explaining that while lacking deep psychic knowledge, breaching Deculin's magic felt like piercing a specific point. Julia exclaimed envy and admiration. Across the room, Sylvia observed, a sense of unease settling within her. Frowning, she thought it illogical. How could someone consistently ranked low suddenly achieve the second best result? Certain that no favoritism occurred, another thought surfaced. Could Professor Deculin be providing private instruction, concealing something? Sylvia glanced coolly at Epherene. Disdain was replaced by a heightened wariness. Epherene, prophesied as one of the era's three greatest magicians, truly seemed arrogant, Sylvia mused, the rivalry intensifying into simmering potential conflict. Following this strenuous warm-up, Professor Deculin meticulously explained the magic employed, his steady voice compelling attention. He stated that they had exerted themselves disrupting psychic magic, but a more efficient method existed to counter control without such energy expenditure. Successful students might have intuited it. Perhaps not profound, but straightforward, mana disruption. Anticipating their thoughts, he clarified that it differed from blocking completed spells, focusing instead on understanding and interrupting an opponent's magic before its completion. Its significant limitation prevented widespread use. Mana disruption was only feasible against spells comprehended by the user. Practical combat typically favored shields or counter spells. Nevertheless, progress required trying. He wanted them to thoroughly understand mana disruption during this lesson. The primary challenge, he elaborated, was pinpointing the magic circle's core, its central flow contingent on the spell's nature, whether offensive, supportive, or elemental. Identifying this epicenter was key to effective disruption. Once accustomed, the process became easier. Moving to the board, sketching illustrations, Deculin demonstrated locating the centers of common circles. First, a lightning spell. Offensive spells featured a central combustion flow radiating outwards. Next, support/healing spells typically appeared thus, image description implied by context, e.g., different flow pattern. Students diligently took notes, but Deculin's brisk pace left some behind. 2 hours passed, the classroom dense with information. Glancing at the clock, Deculin sighed quietly, halting the lesson. Acknowledging that more material existed but time had elapsed, reminding them that they had wasted considerable time earlier, he trusted there would be no objections. He instructed independent study, contemplation, and deduction of the remaining principles. Midterms approached, preceded by a practical open exam. Retaining today's crucial lessons was vital. With a curt class dismissed. Goodbye, everyone, Deculin departed swiftly, leaving students perplexed. Why leave unfinished? What's with the professor? It felt like he was about to reveal more but stopped. Epherene, however, smiled brightly, feeling that she had unlocked something significant, difficult to articulate but genuinely amazing. Suddenly, a cold voice interjected, "Hey, Epherene." The commoner representative. Epherene spun to face Beck, the gossiping troublemaker, wearing nobility's customary arrogant sneer. Epherene's friend spoke up, annoyed, asking Beck's purpose now, recalling his previous interference involving Professor Retlin. Beck merely smirked scornfully, claiming commoners enjoyed flaunting excessively, questioning Epherene how exactly she had ascended from bottom rank to second place. Epherene responded calmly, her smile edged with mockery, stating that an explanation would be futile for him. Before she could continue, Beck interrupted contemptuously, asking how a commoner devoid of family or fortune had bribed him. Epherene whirled, her eyes blazing with fury, demanding what he had just said. Beck tilted his chin defiantly, sneering that it was obvious and everyone knew she received private tutoring from Professor Deculin. Epherene shouted back instantly, her voice trembling with rage, denying ever engaging in such actions. The escalating argument captured Sylvia's attention. Beck continued maliciously, calling Epherene transparent yet persistent in denial, an imbecile not originally from the academy, questioning her rapid improvement, concluding that Professor Deculin showed favor, likely orchestrating the exercise to gift her a mana stone. It all aligned, calling her a homeless orphan. Before Beck could utter another word, potent magical energy surged. Epherene gritted her teeth, her fists balled, poised to lunge, dangerously close to losing control from anger, warning him to say one more word. But Beck, a noble, refused to be slighted by a commoner, snarling back disbelief that she would stop him, calling her a filthy commoner. Epherene retorted with a growl, challenging him to repeat it. Tension peaked. Sylvia, observing nearby, furrowed her brow, her expression concerned. Abruptly, Julia's arm shot out, pulling Epherene back, urging her not to lose her temper, reminding her of potential punishment. Epherene paused, recalling Deculin's instruction, maintain composure. Striking Beck jeopardized all progress. Gently removing Julia's hand, her expression stormy but forcing a smile, Epherene thanked Julia, admitting she had gotten carried away, momentarily thinking she might lose sanity reasoning with mindless individuals. Beck looked ready to explode, shaking with fury, demanding what she had called him. Epherene offered no reply, turning cheerfully to Julia, suggesting they find delicious food. Julia agreed. They quickly walked away, leaving Beck alone, his face flushed crimson with frustration, shouting that he wasn't finished speaking. Sylvia, witnessing the entire confrontation, narrowed her eyes, her gaze following Epherene thoughtfully, calculatingly considering that interesting events were about to unfold, a subtle smirk playing on her lips. Later, outside, Epherene walked slowly, her steps heavy, her mind churning with anger, gritting her teeth, muttering thanks to Julia for the restraint but needing a way to handle detestable Beck, her fury barely contained. Lost in agitation, she unexpectedly noticed a familiar figure waiting ahead. Epherene stopped abruptly, startled. Sylvia stood there, appearing calm yet with intense eyes. Epherene wondered why she was positioned there, what was happening. Sylvia slowly approached, her voice soft yet carrying undeniable weight as she requested a moment to speak.